Hi, my name is Abigail, and here's my audience. Imagine living in the 21st century without airplanes. Or better yet, imagine living in the 21st century without cars. This nightmare would be a reality if it weren't for mechanics. Whether we realize it or not, mechanics affect our everyday lives in more ways than we can possibly imagine. Just think how difficult it would be to do even the simple things, such as go to work, go to the grocery store, or even mow our lawns if we didn't have mechanics to fix and maintain our vehicles when they broke down. A couple months back, I started a job at a retirement home that is only a couple minutes driving distance from where I live. So, if my car broke down and I couldn't drive there, it wouldn't be that big of a deal to walk. But, if I wanted to go work at Sam's Club, for example, that's a good 20 minutes driving distance from my house. So if I had to walk there, it would take me at least an hour to get there. Jobs come and go as technology advances. However, mechanics have been needed and will continuously be needed all throughout the future. I want to begin by explaining what exactly a mechanic is and does. From there, I will tell you how mechanics have been affecting us in the past and also how mechanics are necessary to the future. Finally, I want to tell you how mechanics relate to the Great Commission God has given us. According to dictionary.com, a mechanic is a person that is skilled in maintaining or operating machinery or motors. In other words, a mechanic is someone who fixes, repairs, and builds machinery and motors, such as cars, trucks, airplanes, and even the smaller things, such as lawnmowers and washing machines. In order to become a mechanic, the minimum requirement is a high school diploma. However, if someone wants more training, they can go and get post-secondary training, which usually takes about 6 months to a year to complete. Usually we don't notice all of the fields that mechanics have been affecting us in. As you all know, the United States has been in many wars over the past couple years, and I think it's safe to say that the vital components of a war are the soldiers and the weapons. But the weapons aren't only limited to the guns and the bombs. Tanks and army vehicles are also included in that category. Mechanics are needed to fix the tanks and the vehicles when they aren't working. If we didn't have mechanics, I strongly believe that the results of the wars would be extremely different. Also, mechanics have been indirectly saving lives. How so? Well, who fixes an ambulance when it is needed to go to the place where the people are that are having heart attacks? Who fixes the fire trucks when there is a building burning and there are people in it? Every day, mechanics affect all of our lives when they save the people that we love. So now that we've seen how mechanics have affected the past, let's look at how they affect the future. Mechanics will be continuously needed throughout the future. As we know, the typewriters have been replaced by computers. That means that the people who worked related to the typewriters either lost their jobs or they had to learn how to use the new computers, which were very different from the typewriters. This is just one example of how technology has changed. However, some jobs will never be lost. Mechanics are some of these people that won't lose their jobs because humans will always need transportation. And since we are humans, mistakes will be made. Therefore, mechanics will always be needed to correct those mistakes. As you can see in this graph shows that the total vehicle sales in the United States from the years 2010 to 2014. As you can see, there's a gradual increase in the sales. Since we are continuously selling cars and we are producing more cars, that means that we have a greater need for mechanics in order to fix those vehicles when they break down. So how can a mechanic help fulfill the Great Commission God has given us? God commands us in Matthew 28:19 to go therefore and make disciples of all nations. Now, how are we supposed to get to all the nations if we do not have the transportation to get us there? According to Dr. Donald Alban, God values our attempts to communicate His gospel of forgiveness and redemption to those who do not know Him. In other words, Dr. Alban is saying that God strongly wants us to go to the unbelievers and share His message of love, forgiveness, and grace with them. Now, unless God tells us to do that in our own backyards, or unless He wants to teleport us, we are going to need to rely on the machines to take us where God wants us to go. I would like to conclude by reinstating how important mechanics were to the past, how critical they are to the present, and how crucial they will be in the future. Mechanics don't only affect us here in the United States, but they also affect the people in the other countries when the mechanics build and fix the vehicles that take us to the other countries to share the gospel with the non-believers. I wanted to thank you for listening to this speech, and I want to strongly encourage you to think about how mechanics can be used for God's plans, just like He can use you if you let Him.